About 6 times the charm. So I feel like my cousin Vinny. I tried for the last 20 minutes to get on, and it was live chat was not available. So now it's 6 times the charm. I got eggs cooking, so please remind me. Don't let me sit here for 10 minutes. All right. Our gold price is 26.46. It was 26.60. Notice the 930 buildup on gold. This is common. And then this way the price goes up, and then the U.S. can do a higher derivative at a higher. So in other words, they want the price to go down. So they don't want to do it at 26.49. So it goes up to 26.61. Then they do their option, and then they short it at 26.61 instead of 26.49. So yeah, we're really stupid. And so they did their little 10 o'clock option to 26.43, and now it's back to 26.45, 46. Silver's sitting there at 31.59. So that's our look at gold. Now we'll go through our college look. College, I got some very interesting matchups and games. I think we got a few candidates for our free picks and locks. Let me see the eggs. Another 2 minutes. I don't really omelet it. I just leave it flat. No reason to fold it. Although usually what I do is I put a bunch of shit in it and then I just put the egg over it. So I'll put in chicken and burgers and broccoli and mushrooms and stuff. And then I dump the egg over it. It's a Gordon Ramsay trick. Okie doke. What do we got? 2 minutes. So all the teams are graded. All the Z's are Z'd. We also Z'd. What I do is I highlight the Z's in yellow, and I highlight the A's in blue, and I highlight the low offensive teams in yellow and the high offensive teams in blue. So the idea is you got a team that's got a strong offense playing a team that's weak that doesn't really get a lot of yardage. So the thought is, well, how are they going to score? They only get 200, 250 yards a game. If I get 40, they don't generate that kind of offense. And that's the whole thing. So we're looking for bet against weakness or bet on strength. So when you get A against A, you want to bet on strength. When you get a Z team, you want to bet against them if the spread's right if the spread's right and the teams are right. So the Z team is, you're laying 7 to a Z team and you got a good offense. Yeah, that's a good bet. If you got a weak team, one of these, they got a good defense. They don't really score, like Kentucky. Hard to lay 20 points against a Z team with them. They just don't score. Let me get my eggs and we'll begin. Now, one thing to watch, make sure you butter or oil your pan enough. I put some butter on, but it all melted. It didn't get all over, so it was hard to get the egg out. Anyway, bon appetit. So let's go through our Z teams first, and then we'll go through our lines. So Thursday night, Sam Houston plays UTEP. UTEP's a Z team, gets 258 yards of offense. Friday night, Kennesaw State's a Z team with 200 yards of offense against Jacksonville State. We've got Saturday, UCLA is a Z team. The coach is terrible. Their offense, Ethan Garbers, is terrible. The coach doesn't know what he's doing. They get 259 yards of offense, and they go to Penn State. UMass is Z team. They do get 340 yards a game. Let's see. Akron's a Z team, plays Bowling Green, 226 a game. Temple, a Z team, gets 300 yards a game. Southern Miss, a Z team, gets 193 yards a game. And that's it. And so you're looking for good offenses to handle these weak teams. Now, what's a Z team? They don't have an offense and they don't have a defense. They're a terrible team. And that's what we look for. So my thesis is basically, how do we know who to bet on? And so we rank the teams, basically. And then you look at the stats and you go, they don't score much. They have a weak defense. It's easy to spot, but then you've got to be careful. Akron loses to Ohio State 72-0. Well, are they really a Z team, or most teams lose to Ohio State 72-0? So then you kind of watch that and see how they do against Arkansas State and, Kennesaw State and teams like that, and then see, okay, they're really that bad, or is it just the Ohio State game? So you got to be a little intuitive there to figure that part out, both offensively and defensively. Like Western Kentucky, we locked them a few weeks ago. They got killed by Alabama 38-0, but then they came and then they started scoring on these other teams, and you can't figure out how Alabama shuts them out, and yet they scored 35 on the rest of the teams. What does Alabama do that these teams who have good offenses can't even score on them? And the answer is really they pressure them. They blitz them. They blitz the safeties and the line, so the guy doesn't have time to throw, basically. And therefore, no time to throw, he can't do it. But the other teams, the weaker Arkansas States and, New Mexico States, they can't do it. They don't have the players. And then we have all this NIL crap with the guy from Vegas who says, you know what, I'm NIL. I want my money. And they're saying, we're not paying you. They don't pay him, and then he quits. Well, you're still on a scholarship. You're getting free education. That doesn't mean anything to you. Anyway, so we will see. So let's go through the lines. We got Texas State, 13.5, 57 to Troy. The number went from 14 to 13. I got it right better. I can't read what I just wrote. 13. Boom. Okay. Texas State's, they score a lot. Their defense is a little bit sus. So they're an over team, which means they score a lot, but they give up. So the difference between a Z team and an over team is the Z team doesn't score, the over team does. And neither team have a defense, which then gets back to, okay. So they're gonna allow points, but they're gonna score, and the other team will allow points but doesn't score. So you got a 27 defense against a 26 defense here, Texas State and Troy. This is Thursday night, which is tomorrow already. Sam Houston, 10.5, 50. That line hasn't moved. Again, UTEP is the Z team. Jacksonville State against Kennesaw State. Jacksonville State is more of an over team. Terrible 37 defense. Kennesaw is a Z team with a 29. They get 208 yards. 208 yards of offense. Now, they might get more. See, here's where it becomes the intuitive part. Well, wait a minute, but yeah, they get 208 yards, but here they're playing a team with no defense, a 37 defense. And inevitably, like New Mexico State. New Mexico State got no yards, but then in that game, they put up 40 points because then all of a sudden they're playing such a weak defense. They're able to do things that they couldn't do against the stronger defenses. So keep that in mind. Let's see. TCU and Houston, we got TCU 16.5, 51.5. Houston with a good defense, TCU with a good offense, and then which wins, right? Houston gets 266 yards. They got a bad quarterback. They got a really good coach, really good defense. They really held Iowa State 20-0 last week. It was a good game. Vegas and Syracuse. Vegas is a very good team. 6.5, 58.5. They're not updating injuries on cover, so I got to find a site that has college injuries as up to date so I know what's going on. I don't know where to go. I can try Yahoo, look at the game, but they don't really give you any. In other words, if I want to see if the Vegas quarterback's out or injured or something happened, you don't. You're going in blind. Vegas really doesn't want you to know that information if you're betting. Because they want you to bet on a game when the quarterback's out and you don't know it. So I know I can Google it. I'll look around. So Vegas 6.5, 58.5. Vegas is an A team. Syracuse is a B team. Quarterback from Ohio State has some moments. They get 468 a game, and Vegas 389. Vegas is a running team. They're just a power run team and a very strong defense. Oregon 24 is the last game Friday night. Oregon 24, 52.5 to Michigan State. Both have 19 defenses. It's gonna be tough for Michigan. I mean, they got to fly there, which I assume they're flying there tonight and get used to the time travel and the time change and the airplane, and go to Oregon where it's it'd be like them playing Michigan. So they're used to it, and it's funny is the Oregon State coach is the Michigan State coach. So if anybody knows Oregon, it's this Michigan State coach. Keep that in mind. Penn State 28-46 to where are they? 28-46 to UCLA. They are the Z team. UCLA. Penn State's an A team. Very good offense. Navy and the Air Force. Navy minus 9.5, 35.5. I was watching the Navy Memphis game, and Navy, they don't run triple option anymore. They got 3 wide receivers, and they're throwing the ball, and they can still run, and the quarterback runs. They look very explosive, not like we're going to run it, 82 times and take off 15 minutes of the clock. They're not doing that anymore. Air Force, I'm not sure what they're doing. Louisville, SMU, very interesting game. Louisville 7, 56.5. Both are A teams. Both are good teams, so this should be a good game. A&M 2.5 and 48.5 to Missouri. I'm a little surprised by this line. Missouri is a better team than A&M. The Army, here we go, is 12 and 50.5 to Tulsa. The Army's up. They were 10, 10.5. Now they're up to 11.5, 12. Tulsa's over team, so their defense is a little weak. Army's a very strong team. They got an 11 defense. They're playing very well. Virginia and BC. I know BC had a quarterback issue. I don't know what his status is. Virginia 1 and 53. I'll have to check that out. They went with the backup quarterback, and they barely beat Western Kentucky last week. They'll struggle with Virginia if he's not out, based on what the other guy looked like, but who knows. Wisconsin 14-45 to 14-45.5 to Purdue. Purdue looks like they're terrible. 33 defense. Now, a lot of that was the 66 against Notre Dame, but Purdue's a Big Ten team. They're not a Sun Belt team. So you must take that into consideration. They got blown out last week. They're a weak team. 33 defense, but they don't really score that much. They got a new coach. They just don't look good. Although Wisconsin lost Van Dyke, they blew the lead. Their defense isn't what it used to be. They blew the lead to USC. They had them 21-10, and this game's at home. I don't know. Wisconsin's baffling me. Pitt 3-64. That line hasn't moved. Both teams are over, although North Carolina blew the 17 point. I think they were up 20-7 to Duke and blew the lead and lost 21-20 last week. So Pitt, normally with a good defense, not this year, 26 against 20. So 2 over teams going. Over under 64, though, I think is very high. And I don't trust North Carolina as a dog in this game. So Northern Illinois, 17.5, 44 to UMass. UMass is the Z team. 31 defense. Northern Illinois, I have no idea. They beat Notre Dame, and then they lose to Buffalo and lose again. And I'm a little stunned by them. I thought they had this great offense. So what? You beat Notre Dame, and that's it? And that's it. They're all spent, and they have nothing left, I guess. NC State, 5.5, 54.5. Both with weak defenses, NC State, Wake Forest. NC State, I don't know. They got killed by Tennessee. They got killed by Clemson. They only get 286 a game. Grayson McCall's their quarterback, but I think he's been hurt. He isn't doing anything. Wake, I don't know. I hate their quarterback. I'm surprised they're an over team, to tell you the truth, with that guy. I got to go into that game and see, but I don't know. Wake might be a live dog here, but I don't know if I can trust them. Now it becomes, who do you know? Who can you trust? You know, do I trust Wake as a dog? And the answer is no. I don't like their quarterback. Do I trust NC State to win? No. They're getting killed. They look like shit. So it's like the Riddler. It's a big mystery. You don't know what to do with these teams. The risk is high. The reward's the same as they're going with Alabama. So we'll pass on these. Tulane, 14.5, 55 to UAB. UAB is an E team, 380 yards of offense, balance. Tulane's an A team, 418 yards balance, 22 defense. They're laying 14.5, probably a little high here. Tulane coach moved on, so it's like they're adjusting to the new coach, new quarterback. So they're good. Statistic wise, they're still an A team. I don't know. I think it's a very tight game here. Western against Ball State. Western 9.5, 56.5. They're both W teams. What's a W team? It's like a Z team, but they score a little bit more. So it's the idea. So what I'm saying to myself here is if it's a Z team, they score maybe 10, 15 points a game. They're a W, they might score 19 or 20, but their defense, like for example, Western gives up 36 a game. So no defense, but a decent offense. Not quite a Z team. They get 339 a game, Ball State 307. So again, it's maybe you go with Western. I don't know, Ball State 49 defense. Jesus Christ. This might actually be an over. It's only 56. You could go over 50. I don't know. East Car and Charlotte. East Car is, I believe, page 1 on the other side. Yeah. East Car is 8. You can go 8. You can lay 8 and 47 to Charlotte. Charlotte did beat Rice last week, so Rice is really bad. I still have them as a Z team, 33 defense. But as my point is, Rice has no offense, so they couldn't really beat Charlotte, right? They couldn't, they're not explosive enough. So they ended up with, I think it was 21-20. They lost because they didn't score. Where, again, East Car is more of a B team, a 19 defense. They get 384 a game. Being a B team, they score like upper 20s. A team score in the 30s in college. So it's a pretty good team, East Car against Charlotte, who's kind of weak, laying 8. Interesting game. Marshall against App State. Marshall laying 358. Up from 57. People betting on the over in this game. App State, Joey Aguilar is a good quarterback, and apparently the new coach is terrible. 36 defense. App State was always a very good A team. They'd go beat North Carolina or Duke or somebody, and now they're getting 3 from Marshall. They got a 36 defense. Marshall is an E team. Now, granted, they gave up 70 points to Clemson, which makes it, but okay, so maybe that's 2 or 3 points. Maybe it'd be a 32 defense. Doesn't take it from 36 to 20. Marshall 25 defense, an E team. Interesting game. I think App State's actually probably, well, you'd think they'd be a live dog, except for they have no defense. So when I play a dog, I want a defense. I don't want to play a team with a 36 defense because Marshall's just going to keep scoring on them. So it maybe I'll have to look into an over because App State's going to let up points. So we got to see how good Marshall's team is. Good Big Ten game. Ohio State 19.5, 45 to Iowa. Both are A teams. Iowa found a running back. McNamara quarterback looks okay. They're scoring much more than they did last year, obviously. Ohio State is just very dominant right now, but they haven't played a team like Iowa. See, it's one thing when you beat all these bad teams and you get overrated, like Old Mississippi, right? They beat all these bad teams. You're laying 40, 50 points. They're putting up 50. Here comes Kentucky with this killer defense, and they lose. And that's the point. Oh, wait, Ole Miss is not as good as soon as they play a good team. So that's what I mean. So we'll have to see Ohio State. I think they're very good. I like their quarterback, Howard from Kansas State. So they're both A teams. Ohio State with a 7 defense. Again, haven't played anybody. Iowa, a 14 defense, and they played Iowa State, a good Iowa State team. Iowa gets 400 yards a game, mostly rushing, and they have a great running back. I don't remember his name. Ohio State, 487, and it's balanced. Will Howard, that receiver. Alabama and Ohio State have these little, like 17, 18-year-old freshman receivers who are lighting it up. Part of that is they just, do they double team these guys? How do they handle them? They don't know what to do with them. So it's like Jerry Rice's rookie year in the NFL. He wasn't double teamed and everything. Then as soon as they knew it was Jerry Rice, they start double teaming the guy. So it looks like a very good game. 19 seems like a big number against this Iowa defense. I'm wondering, last week was 38-7 over Michigan State, who had a pretty good defense. Michigan State's defense is what? It's a 19. Iowa's is a 14. And it's a 19 after they played Ohio State. So I would imagine Ohio State gets upper 20s in the 30s here. And I think Iowa with their running back will score some. They are somewhat balanced. And this running back, Ohio State's not going to contain them the whole game. I don't know how good Ohio State's defense is. And I heard from one of our guys in class that Michigan State should have scored a couple more touchdowns. They had the ball close. So I don't know. I think it's closer than 19. And I don't know over under at this point. I'm almost thinking it's so low. I got 44. I go over 38. I almost think, Ohio State will probably get close to 30. And then Iowa's going to score something, right? So it should go over 38. I mean, Ohio State's capable of, scoring at home. At Iowa's a different story. But at Ohio State, they'll have the crowd. But a good game. Can Iowa win the game? I don't think so. I don't think they're the type of team. I think you need a better quarterback to beat this team, even with this great running back. So I link it to Oklahoma State. Could Oklahoma State win this game? No. Could Iowa State win the game? Yeah, because they got Rocco back and a strong defense and a great coach. But I think Ohio State's scared. Oh, my God, we got Iowa. So we'll see what happens. But this should be a very good game. Where did it go? Something reset. Here it is. This is the 3:30 game. So I'll swim early and get home for that game. Northwestern, Indiana. Indiana is minus 13.5. And 41.5 to Northwestern. Northwestern's an under team, 276 yards a game. They got a weak quarterback. You do have a strong defense, 15 defense. Indy with a 13 defense. Indy's an A team. That was our lock last week. -1 to Maryland. They beat them 42-28, I think. And, this game's at Northwestern. Check the weather first. But, a 13 defense and an A team and a good quarterback and a really good coach. So this is James Madison in the Big Ten. Stanford, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, 8.5 from 9 and 49.5 from 50. All right. VTech should have beat Miami. That last play was a touchdown. I can't believe YouTube didn't show it. They get to the end of the game and they don't show it. I was shocked. I did see it on here on like Yahoo. They showed the play. So VTech 26 defense, Stanford 26 defense. Both teams balanced 300. Drones good quarterback for VTech. Stanford Daniels, he's okay. He's not that good. But with both weak D, I think VTech, I love him as a dog here, as a favorite by 8.5. They got to go to Stanford again. We're getting into let's fly across the country. It just seems like I don't see how long this will go on because it's the stupidest thing. Although in the Big 12, everybody flies to West Virginia and they fly there. Extremely stupid. But here, I mean, it's going to get tiring to fly East Coast to West Coast. You got Stanford and Cal in the ACC. It's crazy. Toledo and Miami. Toledo is an A team, Miami an under team. Toledo 6.5, 44, hasn't moved. Miami a 22 defense, Toledo a 19. Miami of Ohio, I think, struggled with Ohio. With who did they struggle with? They struggled with UMass last week, 23-20, who's a Z team. Toledo's a good team. They beat Old Mississippi State by like 30 points. They put up 60 on them. 19 defense and an A team, and Miami of Ohio is struggling offensively. So I think Toledo gets the win here, but Miami of Ohio is not, 22 defense. Bowling Green and Akron. Bowling Green is 14.5, 51. To Akron. Akron's a Z team, gets a whopping 226 a game, a 40 defense. Bowling Green, I thought, was an explosive team until last week. An E team, 27 defense, over under a 51, and a passing attack for 400 yards a game. Now, I'm confused because they played Penn State good, and they played A&M good, lost by a touchdown, and they lose last week to, I think, Old Dominion or somebody. You're just like, what? The game's, at Akron, 14.5. Is that too much? Maybe we're happy it's under 10. I'll have to study the MAC a little bit more. I was studying the conferences. I haven't gotten to the MAC yet. Oh, that's my homework, but I wasted a half hour trying to get on here because they wouldn't give me a live chat. It was full. It wasn't working. I get kicked off 5 times, but I try again. Georgia and Auburn. Here we got Georgia 24.5, 52.5. To Auburn, a team that is in, like, their quarterback sucks, Peyton Thorne. I don't know if they're using him or going to the backup again. Georgia, Beck looked good against Alabama after the first quarter. They started coming on, a lot of good passes. He had plenty of time, so Alabama didn't really fuck around with him. Should have won the game at the end. The pass to the receiver never adjusted, never came back for the ball. Inexcusable. He was a freshman, but you expect more from a Georgia offensive wide receiver. So the question here is, let's see, Auburn with a 19 defense, 431 yards a game, but not in the SEC. Georgia with 409 passing offense. The problem with Georgia and a 15 defense is they're not running the ball like they usually do. They got Etanine's brother from Clemson is the running back here. He's okay. They don't have those power runners that they usually have. Too much passing. Back with all these interceptions last week. Now, a revenge. It's not a revenge game. They're off of a loss and they're at home. And laying 24. So we got to lay 18. Do we want to lay 18? Auburn with a good defense. Lost to Oklahoma, who has no offense. Last week, what was it? 24-14. 27-21. So Oklahoma gets 27 points on them without really a good offense. And they get 21 against Oklahoma, which is very good because Oklahoma's got a very good defense. So that leads me to believe Georgia gets into the 30s at least, and they'll be pissed. They're going to come out, and it's going to be 28-0 in the first 5 minutes. Georgia does not lose football games. And now with the playoffs, they can lose a game. They can't lose 2, especially at home to Auburn. So this is a very much back against the wall game for Georgia. I haven't picked it yet. I don't know. The line at 24 has got me a little worried. The over under 52. Can we go under 58, which we normally do in Georgia games? I don't know. It is in the 50s. Auburn is pretty weak offensively, and Georgia, is not the dynamic Georgia with Brock Bowers not being there. Yogurt, avocado and a 3-egg omelet. Doesn't get any better for that for breakfast. My little chunk of Celtic salt with my 82 minerals. Very healthy. I feel very good with it. Definitely making me feel a lot better, the Celtic salt. So, recommend it. And you don't take a lot. You just take a little bit. Or like I made it on the omelet. I just took a little bit. Very spicy kind of thing. But you're getting all the minerals. So I know they tell you don't take salt because of high blood pressure. But this is Celtic salt. This is 82 minerals, and my blood pressure is not high. All right, so we're debating what to do with Georgia. Let me go into see if they do injuries in the matchup. So they lost to Cal, they beat New Mexico, they lost to Arkansas, they lost to Oklahoma. But pretty good defense. See, Georgia's problem, they beat Clemson 34-3, then Tennessee Tech, who cares, 40-38. Then Kentucky, they struggle 13-12, and then they play a 75-point game with Alabama. I wish it would give injuries. So they didn't throw much against Kentucky. They threw the ball only 24 times for 160 yards. I mean, where was the passing? Yeah, I'm not getting, oh, wait, I do have injuries here. Oh, okay. So if I go into covers, I see but are they updated? I can see the injuries, but I don't think they're updated. Let's see. Oh, here's some September 3rd. No, I mean, so we're in October, and they're giving me September 13th injuries. This is the problem. So they're not updating the injuries. Okay. Anyway, so Ole Miss, 9.5, 53.5 to South Carolina. Now, before last week, you'd have been all over Ole Miss, but now we're like, let's see, 9.5. An 8 defense, but they gave up 20 to a team with no offense, Kentucky. They struggled against Kentucky's strong defense. South Carolina with a 17 defense did beat Kentucky 20-6. So ironic. Over under in the game is 53 and 9.5. Ole Miss, we know they can 580 yards, balanced offense. It's mostly dart running and throwing, but South Carolina, pretty good defense, 17. Although here's what I'm focusing on is the LSU game, and that game was 37-34 LSU. So South Carolina was able to score on a pretty good LSU team. Do we have LSU here? I can cheat and look at their stats. Well, I don't know if LSU's playing or not. Okay. Well, I don't see him. So LSU's probably like a 25 defense, somewhere like that. So South Carolina, so Ole Miss 37, an eight defense, but I don't believe it. It's probably more like the 20 that we saw. Well, let's look at Ole Miss. So if we look at Ole Miss scoring, so if we go back, so they beat Furman 76-0. Then they beat Middle Tennessee 52-3, which explains why Middle Tennessee is so bad. Then they beat Wake 40-6, and then they get Georgia Southern 52-13. So they're scoring a lot, but then you go, but what happened against Kentucky? They only got 17 points. Over under was 51, and they got 37. So I knew it wouldn't go over against Kentucky because Kentucky won't help you. They got 20 points, but strong defense. So they haven't really played Middle Tennessee and Georgia Southern, Furman, and then Wake. So their numbers are skewed. Maybe you can call the Wake game. So basically, if we just look at Wake and Kentucky, they score 40. So it's 30 points a game. And they 40 and 17. It's 57, so it's 28 a game. And they give up 6, they give up 20. So they got a 13 defense if we look at against normal team. So it's really not an 8, it's a 13. Because I don't care that against Furman it was 76-0. We're not going to go there. On the contrary, South Carolina, so here they beat Akron 50-7. Now here's what I'm talking about. They play the Z team, Lane the 24, and they beat them 50-7. They lose a close one with LSU 36-33. They actually beat Kentucky 31-6. And Old Dominion, they won 23-19. So they're starting to score, right? 31 on Kentucky, 36 against LSU, 50. So now South Carolina is a much stronger team. And then so when you look at Ole Miss, and they put 40 up, 52 on Georgia Southern, and then only 17 last week. So it's a real, what do you do with it, right? I honestly think this is kind of let's give you this as the free pick. We're going to go over in this game. Now, I'm doing this for South Carolina is slowly scoring more. And they have a freshman quarterback, so he's getting more kind. He's really hard to tackle. He's like Cam Newton, good, solid runner. But Ole Miss, I don't think has the defense. Kentucky put up 20 on him. So here's my score in this game. I think it'll be Ole Miss 37, South Carolina 24. It might even be 30. That's a 61, and we're 53 over 47. And we got Ole Miss. South Carolina doesn't have that kind of defense, judging by the LSU game. So I'm taking the LSU game going 37-34 to 71. They're not this defensive under team. I got them as a B team, 17 defense. but probably a little bit more, but not that strong of a 17, right? They're probably a 20 something based on the LSU game. And Ole Miss, off of this loss, will be pissed off. So I look at them to score. So I think this goes over 53. That was my hunch initially. Kentucky with a real strong defense, but they don't have an offense. South Carolina is putting up points. And even though it was Akron last year, it's still nice to put up 50. So free pick, let's go over in the Ole Miss South Carolina game, over 53, which means over 47 in our world. So bon appetit on that one. Nebraska, 741.5 to Rutgers. Both are, well, Rutgers is an A team. I got Nebraska as a B team. They killed Colorado. Colorado doesn't run and play defense. Rutgers does. This is should be a very good game. Rutgers 16 defense is a 16 defense. They beat Washington last week. It's a very similar, both teams, strong defense. Rayola's okay, and Rutgers quarterback's okay. I think they can drive on them. I think this will be a close game. 428 offense for Rutgers, and they have an outstanding running back. Nebraska, we know, very strong defense, but they don't have that running back. And Rayola is a freshman, so I think this game is going to be a good one. West Virginia, Oak State, 3.5, 65.5. This is how I find my plays when we discuss this and I really dig in. The only thing I got to check is injuries, which I can't do on covers. They're not updating it. I'll have to find another. I think there's like an NCAA site or CBS site or something that could have injuries. I know on Yahoo it has pro injuries updated, but not college for some reason. It kind of sucks. Probably because there's so many college teams, they figure I can't keep up with them. All right, so what do we got? Oak State, West Virginia. Oak State, 4.5 is down to 3.5. 66, 65.5 over. West Virginia, an over team with a 29 defense. Oak State's an over team with a 25. They are not using Ollie Gordon. Both teams get about 400 yards of offense. West Virginia is more balanced, which is hard to believe because Oak State's got Ollie Gordon. Why the fuck aren't you using Ollie Gordon? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, we will see. But 29 defense, West Virginia. Yeah, well, I mean, they're both over teams, Oak State. So you would think you'd get a lot of points. However, you're looking at a 66 over under, which, are we going to get into the 60s here? I think we'll be close. I definitely think it's upper 50s. The question is, can we push it into the 60s? We will see. I'll have to think about it. Alabama, 23, 55.5 to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they played Missouri really tough. Now, either Missouri, there's something wrong with. They got Brady Cook, a great quarterback, good coach. They're missing their running back, went to Frisco. Now he's on the Rams. So Missouri's a very good team, but they're not playing as good as they with Cook. I don't know. Alabama, we saw. They came, they conquered, they won. Obviously, the A team, probably the number 1 or 2 team. Ohio State, Oregon has something to say in that. Georgia almost pulled it off. If the receiver would have went after the ball, Georgia ties the game up or maybe wins it with a 2-pointer. So Alabama, their defense, not as strong as we think. I mean, Georgia put up 33 points in basically the second half. Vandy, Degiopavia, more of a running quarterback. He's going to get nothing. They'll shut him down. Over under a 55. Alabama's going to score. I mean, fucking Milrose, you can't. This guy's got moves, and then that 17-year-old, look out. Um, I don't know. If the game didn't go under last week, I can't imagine it going under here. So you got a 15 defense with Alabama, 23 with Vandy. Alabama, I do not look for to be flat. I think they got a great coach in DeBoer. At Vandy, I don't. Vandy, they did beat Virginia Tech, and they played well at Missouri, so they have their moments. 55. They're balanced with 350, and they're an over team, so they score and give up 23. Now let's look at the matchup. Alabama, we don't need to look for, so let's look at. So 2 weeks ago, they played Missouri. They lost 30-27. They lost to Georgia State 36. So they gave up 30 points to Missouri, 36 to Georgia State. Here's where you get skewed. They beat Elkhorn 55-0. This is what skews up your stats because you go, oh, well, Vandy's the 23 defense. No, they're not. Virginia Tech. So in the 3 real games they played, they gave up 27, 36, and 30. So they're giving up like 30 points a game. So we got to change this from 23 to 30. 30s with Elkhorn State shutting them out. Well, that doesn't count. It's a high school team. And then they scored 34 on VTech, 32 on Georgia State, and 27. So they're scoring 30 a game. That's why they're an over. Will they score 30 on Alabama? Let's see. So we look at Bama, Western Kentucky 63-0, South Florida 42-16, who I think is a lot like Vandy. Wisconsin 42-10, but Van Dyke leads, and then 41 on Georgia. So let's put it this way: Alabama's going to score at least 4. I mean, you put up 42 on Wisconsin and 41 on Georgia. Yeah, this is probably an over because I think if you tease it to 49, this is Alabama's going to get you 49, right? I mean, that's how Vandy can score. I mean, they've been scoring 30, but not real 30. I mean, we take out that one team, they've been giving up 30. So Alabama's just going to. I don't know how much Vanderbilt scores, but they should score something. I mean, they're still an SEC team, even though they're Vanderbilt. And they're not a Z team. They're an over team. So they're scoring 30, giving up 30. Yeah. Yeah, there'll be points in this game. Absolutely. See, I just found a game just by looking at the history and throwing out the Elkhorn State game. Now I got, oh, fuck, they're a 30-point defense. I mean, Georgia Southern beat them, and Georgia Southern's a good team. All right, Oregon State 11.5, 47.5. That's Oklahoma State. There it is. 11.5 down from 14 and 47.5. Okay. Colorado State's pretty bad. They got killed by Prime and his boys. 29 defense, Colorado State, 21 for Oregon State. They just beat Michigan State it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah. They beat Michigan State. Oh, no, they beat Purdue 38-21. So Purdue, we know, doesn't have much defense. And we've got Colorado State doesn't have much defense either, 29. Prime put up over 30 on them, 11.5, 21 defense, 29, 400 yards, mostly rushing. Colorado State 325. It seems like a low line. I think Oregon State minus under a touchdown probably is good. I don't think Colorado State shows me a lot. I don't know where they're getting this line from, but I think it's pretty low. Go Oregon State. Beat Army. Clemson, 14.5, 48 to Ooglia Booglia. I mean, Clemson's an over team. They recovered from the Georgia debacle. They've been scoring 40, 50 points a game since then. They look really strong offensively. And Florida State, we know with Ooglia Booglia, they just got blown out by SMU. The team's lost. Ooglia Booglia is, throws a couple pick sixes a game, or a couple picks anyway. Pick six last week to SMU. Clemson's rolling. They've got the loss to Georgia, so they must keep winning. Clemson, minus 14.5. That's nothing. Yeah, I think Clemson destroys them. I mean, they're not showing. They got destroyed by SMU, and Clemson's been on a roll. I just don't see Florida State scoring with Ooglia Booglia. He's such a bad quarterback, but Clemson, I don't know that they'll stop. Now, I do like Florida State's defense, but it's 25 now. It's not the same defense as last year because they don't have a quarterback and they don't score. You don't have a quarterback really affects the team because the defense kind of doesn't try going, what's the use? All right, James Madison, 16.5, 48.5. This is the new super team. Look for them in the playoff. You beat North Carolina 70-50. You deserve to be in the playoffs. Great running quarterback they got. 16.5, 48.5 to Lou Monroe. Lou Monroe is under team. James Madison's an 8 team, 17 defense. Lou Monroe doesn't score much with the 20 defense. So let's go into this game. Let's see who Lou Monroe has been fucking around with. James Madison, 63-7 over Ball State, 70-50. So you can see they changed quarterbacks because they beat Webb State 13-6 and Charlotte 30-7. And then all of a sudden they switch quarterbacks, and there you go, 70-63. Has Vegas made the adjustment? Not really. They're 16. Well, let's look at Lou Monroe. Lou Monroe beat Jacksonville State 30-14, UAB 32-6. So we were looking at that UAB game against Tulane, and now it takes a whole different light going, wait a minute, UAB got their ass kicked by Lou Monroe. They lost to Texas 51-3, and they beat Troy 13-9. So they played 3 Sun Belt type teams. Troy 13-9, surprising. Texas, yeah, they got killed 51-3. James Madison. So the question is, James Madison's stats are right because they played 4 real teams, not high school teams. Now, except for Texas, 6 to UAB, 9 to Troy, 14 to Jacksonville State. UAB is kind of a even team, and Troy, we know, is a terrible team, which that's surprising. They only beat them 13-9. Where's Troy? I don't know where the Troyers are. I have to look at last week. Troy. So many games. There they are. Troy's a 29 defense. They lost, 13-9. Yeah. Well, Lou Monroe I have as an under team, so they don't. Well, they scored so now it's skewed because they scored 30 the first 2 games, and then 13 on Troy, and then the 3 against Texas, which is kind of like you throw it out because they're playing. Or this is Lou Monroe we're looking at playing James Madison. So what is Lou Monroe going to score for the over, or are we betting James Madison because they're on fire? Um, so when they played Texas, they gave up 51. So it kind of leads you into James Madison's probably going to light them up. UAB Jacksonville State, not exactly. Well, let's see. UAB 381 a game. Jacksonville State 380 a game. So not bad offensively. Jacksonville State I got as an over, and UAB I got as an E. So Jacksonville State beating them 30-14 was good. So that was the first week, and the Troy win 13-9. So how good is Lou Monroe? But then Texas 51-3. So it really. Here you're playing this really hot, explosive offense. They're an A with the 17 defense. Lou Monroe gets 200 yards of offense, even though they put up points against UAB and Jacksonville State. So we look at the Troy game, 13-9. We just it's a tough one to figure out because who they played, except for Texas, they played pretty well. But I think they're not going to help us point wise. I think the 48, we go down to 42. I'm not sure how much Lou Monroe helps us. And the question is if James Madison puts up another 50 like they did against Ball State. Ball State is a 49 defense, so we're not looking at that game as anything. It's a hard one. I think James Madison wins. I don't think they're going to lose. And the question is, are they just going to throw up 50 points a game now from here on in? Maybe, because this quarterback, very good. Old D, Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, 5.5, 54. Old D, an under team, 27 defense. Coastal Carolina, an over team with a 28. So you're going, why are they an under team with a 27 defense? I didn't want to make them a W team. And they just beat, they played pretty well against Ball State last week, or Bowling Green. I think they beat Bowling Green, who I thought was a good team against Penn State and A&M. So shame on me. I don't know, 27 defense, 28 defense, over, under. I don't know enough about these teams to start going over, under on them. And I'll look in the box scores. Boise, our overlock hit last week. And what do we got this week? We got 26.5, 66. Utah State's a W team with a 36 defense. Boise is a explosive over team with a 30 defense. This should go over. Let's see what Utah State's going to do for us. The key is, for an over, both teams need to be able to score. You can't just rely on like Ole Miss or Boise to get all the points for you. So let's look at Utah State. I don't know. Who did they play the first game? Robert Morris. They lose 48-0 to SC, 38-21 to a Cam Rising-less Utah. And they lose to Temple 45-29. Are you kidding me? So in the 3 games they played, they've given up 48, 45, 38. So roughly 44, 45 points. Not this 36 that we have. So let's adjust that. Take out the Robert Morris game. So it's 48 and 40s, 88, 120. So let's call it 42. Let's get to reality. And then offensively, it's 0 against USC. 21 on Utah is good. 29 on Temple isn't. You gave up 45 points to Temple. Oh, my God. And we know what Boise is. Boise, 56 on Georgia Southern. Lose to Oregon, 34-37. And then they beat Washington State 45-24. So they're going to get in the 50s. They beat Portland State, so we got to throw that out. But basically, they're going to get 50 points in this game. Easy. I mean, Temple scored 45 on them. So now it's a question. Okay, Utah State's pretty bad. Boise's explode. They got a great runner, Boise. There was a play last week. He runs into the guy, but they hit him, but it doesn't phase him, and he just kind of keeps running, and then he goes for like 70-yard touchdown, even though he got hit hard at the line. It didn't, so he's like Ollie Gordon there. We don't know what's wrong with Ollie Gordon. We got to see him, but so Boise, 26.5. Yeah. I think that's not going to be a problem. Arkansas State against USA, South Alabama, USA. Give me a break. South Alabama. Now they are a very explosive team, 3-62. I'm not sure I understand this line. It should be much higher. They've been scoring a ton. A 29 defense against the 34 defense, so they should have no problem pounding this one. In Arkansas State, 296. Let's go into this matchup. I like looking at, this is a very key thing to picking, is looking at the last few games to get a good register of how good's the team. So if we go back, so they play North Texas, so they have trouble against passing teams. North Texas 52-38 beat them. They lose to Ohio 27-20. Forget Northwestern State 87-10. App State 48-14, and then they scored 10 on LSU 42-10. So they're all over the place. Good passing teams like North Texas, LSU, they give up 50 points. Ohio State is not much of an offense, and App State is not much of a team either. Kind of a weak defense. So what do we have here? We're getting Arkansas State. Well, we got to look at Arkansas State to see what they're capable of. And they lose to they beat Central Arkansas. So let's go. Tulsa 28-24. They lose to Michigan 28-18. Give them credit for putting up 18 on Michigan's defense. And then Iowa State, they lose 52-7. So Iowa State with a good passer. Michigan, no offense at all. Now we get them against South Alabama. So South Alabama, I mean, they struggle against Ohio. Are they going to struggle here? Michigan, they only lost 28-18, even though they got 3 picks from the guy who's not their quarterback anymore. So they beat Tulsa 28-24, lose to Michigan. Even Central Arkansas, they only beat 34-31. Iowa State killed them 52-7 last week. So how good South Alabama? I know Major Applewhite's their coach, who was the quarterback at Texas, who's going to give you one of these explosives. So the problem is they score 87 on Northwestern State, 48 on App State. And you go, oh, okay, they're a real strong offense. And then what happened against LSU, 42-10. That's how I get fooled. I should never have taken that over, especially locking it. I thought, oh, I'm going to get 30, 40 more points, 38 on North Texas. So again, you got to be careful of the competition and the style of the team. So I don't know that if we throw that out, they're a 58, 78 and 40 is 180 and 40 is 120 divided by, so they're like a 30-point offense. And roughly they're 90, 110, 140. They're like a 35 defense. So I can't, well, all you can do with this is play the game over if you think Arkansas State's going to score. I mean, well, on the other hand, you're laying 3. Lou Monroe or Arkansas State. They beat Tulsa. All you know is they beat Tulsa, lost to Michigan, and close one, got killed by Iowa State. I don't know. This is where it's hard betting these, Sun Belt type of teams. Conference USA. All right, Lou Lafayette against Southern Miss. Lou Lafayette is 14-57. Mine hasn't moved. Lou Lafayette, a good team, a B team. So they score 25 defense, 438 yards a game. Southern Miss is a Z team. gives up 34. They're a terrible team. I think Lou Lafayette covers the 14. Hard to play the 57 over because you're not going to get much help from Southern Miss. By putting down the Z team, I know they're going to score 10, 15 on a good day. Lou Lafayette's a good team. They do have the 25 defense. I think Lou Lafayette's a good play here. Go Lou Lafayette. Beat Navy. Navy looked pretty good. I don't know if too many teams going to beat them. They just manhandled Memphis. I mean, that's a good team. Michigan, Washington. Washington is 2.5, 41.5. Michigan's got to go West Coast. That's got to hurt them. Orge's terrible quarterback. They don't have a good quarterback. Hard to believe that. Harbaugh just fucks him over, doesn't recruit a quarterback. Hard to believe. Michigan's an under team with the 21 defense, although Minnesota scored 3 late touchdowns in the fourth quarter to lose 27-24. And so they didn't go under with Michigan. Hard to believe. Michigan, Minnesota. Washington played Rutgers. The kid misses 3 field goals that they should have beat him. I had the game under, so I didn't care if he made it or not at the end. Although I wanted them to miss because I hate overtimes, and then they all score 5 touchdowns, and they score 10 points in the game, and then all these touchdowns in overtime. God, it's ridiculous. So let's see. So we've got we got Washington with a 12 defense. Look pretty good. Rutgers is very explosive. And Michigan with the 21 defense. They looked pretty, they had trouble with USC, which of course, throwing the ball. They got the one cornerback who does pick sixes. Why they still throw on that guy, I have no idea. I'd go, where's he? Let's throw the other side. It's like Charles Woodson. Let's throw to the other side. We don't need to fuck with this guy. And again, the game is on West Coast. It's a 7:30 game, so that's not bad for Michigan. It's not like the 10:30 game where it would be really late for Michigan. 21 defense. I think the defense is good. Washington, they don't have Penix. They got the Arizona coach who's really good. I think Washington wins the game. I think it'll be a tight game. I'm not sure how many points because Michigan offensively doesn't score, but they've been getting pick sixes and block punts, and you fumble and they get the ball at the 10-yard line like last week. They never should have beat Minnesota. They got a block punt and they got a fumble with the 10-yard line that they took in. So they want to run the ball, and they're not going to run it on Washington. Rutgers couldn't do a lot. So I think Washington wins it, but close. And then the total superficially looks like an under, right? Good defense, no off. Michigan an under team. Washington, very strong defense. Struggled with Rutgers. They're going to struggle with Michigan's defense. So I would say under is probably the best play to make the play. We'll see. Although after last week, I'm a little nervous that I thought the score would be 24-3. You can't score in Michigan, and it's 27-24. I'm like, yeah, I guess you can if you and Minnesota's quarterback's not very good. All right, Baylor, Iowa State. Iowa State, I love 11.5, 45, down from 12 and 46. So 11.5. Iowa State's the better team. Baylor's not terrible. They're a B team with the 20 defense. We saw them against Colorado. What happened? Iowa State, very strong defense, the 7 defense. They're an under team, although they lit it up last week. So I got them actually as an A under team. So actually an A team. They put up 20 on Iowa and then 50 last week. I think they're Rocco Brecht's very good quarterback. Very well coached. I love their coach. They're good, like hidden secret, Iowa State. We had them against Iowa under, got the winner there. We didn't play them last week because I'm scared to lay 20 with them, and they won 54-7. So here we've got them against a good Baylor team who's got the worst coach in the history of life. I can't believe the Miami coach is still there. I would have fired him on the spot. So it's a big line to play against Baylor, 31-13. We know, take the Colorado game. Baylor put up 31 on them. And then last week against BYU, Baylor put up 28 on a good BYU defense. BYU's got a 13 defense. That score was 34-28 BYU over Baylor, and BYU's not an explosive team. So it's too big of a number to lay against Baylor, the 11. Then total of 45. I don't know. It's a hard number. Again, thinking of the Iowa game was a 40. I think it falls in there. But the way that Baylor scored on BYU, I'm like, well, BYU and Iowa State have similar defenses. So I don't know. This is a tough line. I'm going to have to watch, although I think Iowa State wins, but I think it'll be closer and could get a little high scoring because Iowa State's got a good quarterback. They might light it up on Baylor. All right. USC, Minnesota. Again, USC having to travel back to Midwest. USC 8.5, 51 against Mini. I don't like their quarterback, but he lit up Michigan's vaunted defense last week, right? So all of a sudden he's not too bad. So SC's a 37. They're a 17 defense, sorry, and Minnesota's a 15 defense. USC's an 18. So they blew the lead to Michigan. Had they passed in the first half, they should have beat Michigan without a quarterback. They couldn't tackle the running back. But I was watching the Wisconsin game, and the defensive coordinator was pretty pissed. And they tackled a guy, and he got all excited. So I think they're working on tackling, right? Good defensive coordinator, I think. Not happy about the Michigan game. So what do we got here? USC, do we want to go 2.5 at Minnesota with I thought was a weak quarterback who's getting a little bit better? USC, Boss is okay. He's not anything special. They did come on against Wisconsin. But again, you travel to Michigan, you're back home, and now you're traveling to Minnesota. I mean, these are not like the Pac-10 where they're hour flights. It's a 3.5-hour flight. And, they pass for 443. They're not really running the ball, SC. And Minnesota's got a very strong defense. I think SC minus 2.5 probably should be good. But I think this will be close. This could be an upset. USC's not that strong that, they're going to win. And Minnesota's not that bad that they're going to lose. As they showed you against Michigan, they can score. USC's defense is not Michigan's, right? So it's a tough game. It could go either way. I think a home dog, Minnesota could win, but you're leaning towards SC minus 2.5. The over under. USC's normally gonna be an over. Minnesota probably an under, but if the quarterback's starting to wake up, he's from Holy Cross or something, and he went to Minnesota now. So he's looked terrible in the beginning against North Carolina, but last week he looked better. So not really sure here. This is a tough. This is not just take USC down to 2.5. Nevada, San Jose State. San Jose State 6.5, 51. Over under went from 48 to 51. Who the fuck's betting an over here? 6.5. Nevada's an under team with a 24 defense, 367 a game, and San Jose State's an 18 with a 24 defense, 400 yards a game. They're not much of a strong offense, but they have a very good defense. So I don't know. Good game here, Tennessee, Arkansas. I've been watching the Arkansas Texas A&M game, and I do not like this Arkansas quarterback, and I don't like the A&M quarterback either. Tennessee looks strong, although, again, against Oklahoma, 25-15. It's not like they put up 50. 13 and a half, and let's call it 60. That number hasn't moved. Both teams are A teams. Statistically, Tennessee's way the better, but it's at Arkansas, which it's SEC land. Tennessee with the 7 defense, I think it's probably more like a 15 because of who they played. And when they played Oklahoma, they got 15 on them. And if Oklahoma's scoring 15 on you, that you don't have that great of a defense. Arkansas with the 20 defense. 500 yards for Tennessee a game, 450. And I'm looking at the stats. The quarterback's really not. He's like got 1 or 2 touchdowns. It's all the running that it's like these little running plays that they just are very explosive. The quarterback's very explosive, like running the ball. And some of the passes he makes, they gain 20, 30 yards. And I guess when they get into the red zone, they just run it down your throats. But again, against Oklahoma, 25. Now they'll be pumped up against Arkansas. They don't have Alabama yet. The third Saturday in October is going to be a hell of a game because Tennessee looks for real, and we know Alabama with Milrose. I hope the over/under in that Alabama game is like somewhere in the 50s, please. If I get a 50 in that, that's a lot going over Tennessee, Alabama. So I don't. 13 and a half is a big number at Arkansas. 60 total. Watching the A&M game, I don't love this Arkansas quarterback. Although being in Arkansas, they should move the ball. Tennessee should move it. 60 is a big number. Just I don't feel the line right now. We'll have to see. UCF against Florida. Florida was favored. Now UCF's a 2.5, 60 and a half. Florida's a 27 defense. UCF's a 25. We know Florida sucks. However, they did beat Old Mississippi State, which apparently Toledo put up a 60 on them. So I guess that's not too impressive. UCF had trouble with Colorado, which I was shocked. Jefferson didn't look very good. What else is new? Bobby's favorite quarterback. UCF gets 538 a game. Very strong running team. They got that. I think it's Hugh Freeze or that other Gus Malzahn. One of those two is I think Gus Malzahn. And he runs that option running game, and Jefferson's okay unless you need it. He's okay on like play action, but 3rd and 10, he's not going to show up. Florida, I don't know, 27 defense. They've been scoring. They look like shit against Miami, but that was week 1. Let's take a look at this matchup. So UCF, okay, they lost to Colorado. TCU, they beat TCU 35-34. Sam Houston 45-14. So they've been scoring. They're in the 30s a game against Colorado, TCU, Sam Houston. And their defense has sucked. 14, 34, 48. So 70, 50, 80, about 100. It's like a 33 defense. What do we got? Yeah, it's not a 25 defense. It's a third. Let's call it a 33. But they score. Let's see if Florida scores. If Florida scores, we could have an over here. So Miami, 41-17. They beat Sam. Who's Sam? Some bulldog. All right, so throw that game out. They lose to A&M 33-20. Then they beat Old Mississippi State 45-28. So they scored 20 on A&M, 45 on Old Mississippi State. A&M's got a good defense. Old Mississippi State, I don't know what they're doing. And 17 on Miami. So they're giving up roughly 41, 74, and 30s, 100. They're giving up like 32 a game. So all of a sudden, both these stats are high school infected. So it's a 33 defense against a 32 defense. Florida, okay, they put up 45 on Old Mississippi State, but they did put up 20 on A&M, 17 on Miami. So let's throw the Miami game out. So it's 20 on A&M, 45 last week to Old Mississippi State. UCF scores a ton, gives up. Yeah, I think this game should go over. I think Florida, I mean, it's not like UCF's got this great defense, and neither does Florida. So this is kind of my over against over. Florida doesn't get a lot of yards, but that's, well, you got a Sam game and a Miami game thrown in there. Old Mississippi State. So Florida, TCU is pretty high. I think Florida can score enough. 60 down to 54 is 28-27 is a W. It looks like UCF's going to get us 40 points. I mean, even in the win, they gave up 28 to Old Mississippi State, 33 to A&M, who doesn't have much of an offense. So this is a 30 defense for sure. So Florida is not one of these great defensive teams, and neither is UCF. I think this is probably a good over. Arizona State and Kansas. This should have been an over for sure, but Kansas, Daniels is not looking that good. A lot of picks. I think he's getting better. Arizona State at home at 8:00 at night, 3-50. This is a conference game. 3-50 to Kansas. Arizona State's a B team with the 22 defense. Kansas is an E team with the 24 defense, but Kansas has been playing better lately. Let's go into the matchup. So Kansas, they lose to TCU 38-27. We have them on the over there. West Virginia 32-28. Vegas 23-20. And Illinois 23-17. So they've lost the last four. But the very good defensive team. Well, Illinois and Vegas, good defensive teams. West Virginia not, and TCU certainly not. They're giving up roughly 30 points a game. Kansas, not 24. So if we look at, see again, they played Lincoln Logs and won 48-3, which skews everything up. So you take that out. So they are now what 20, 40, 70, 100 divided. So they're like a 25 offense, Kansas. And defensively, they're a 40, 70, and 51, 20, 30. So they're like a 30 defense, not a 24. And now let's look at Arizona State. And they played four legitimate teams, so their numbers are good. Losing 30-22 to Texas Tech. Not surprised Texas Tech put 30 up on them. 31 on Texas State, 31-28. That's a 59. Old Mississippi State, they only beat them 30-23. And then Wyoming 40-7, who's really bad this year. So their stats are good. So Arizona State with the 22 defense. Yeah, they gave up 28 to Texas State and 30 to Texas Tech, who are very good passing teams. Kansas is not that. They're a balanced 385. Oh, they're not scoring. They put up 30 on Old Mississippi State, 31 on Texas, and only 22 on Texas Tech, which is surprising. what do we do here? I mean, I think Kansas is playing better. We see that they're really a weaker team than we thought. Arizona State at home, a 22 defense. So Kansas loses their offensive coordinator, are not scoring. This would be an easy over with the old defensive coordinator. Arizona State 22. Yeah, I don't know. We'll get back to you on this one. I don't know. Need more time to study. I gotta look at the quarterbacks. Well, Kansas Daniels, I know is not good, but Arizona State's they have a really good running back, but their quarterback doesn't get a lot of touchdowns. It should be 44. I think we should get there. I don't think we have sufficient defense. San Diego State 2.5, 50.5 to Hawaii. Was 48. It's now 50.5. Okay. I don't know. They're both kind of under teams. Duke, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is up to 9 and 54.5. This was 7.5. This one up to 9. Again, these are the betting apps, Bet365, FanDuel. So I'd like to look at scores and odds, but it's probably a 9-point game, which makes sense. And a 54. Georgia Tech, we know, is a good team with the 20 defense. Duke's a 16. They came back from 20-7 down to North Carolina to win 21-20 last week. So they can score a little bit. And then Georgia Tech, we know, can score 54. But Duke's, yeah, they're not really a very high-scoring team. Georgia Tech is, so we'll see. We'll get back to you on that. Miami and Cal. Miami's got a flight to California from Miami, long flight, 10.5, 54.5. We got 15 defense for Miami, Cal a 12, Miami an A team, and Cal's more of an under team. However, they went to Auburn and won 21-14. 12 defense. So can they keep Miami under wraps? Last week, Miami struggled, I think. Maybe it was the week before. Oh, yeah, that's the game they should have lost to Virginia Tech, 38-34. So now it shows you Miami, not that strong a defense, but Cal is an under team. And I don't think Cal's going to hold them down. So I don't know. It throws you off because it's a late Saturday night game. It's a 10:30 game, which is rough. Miami's really getting fucked here. Not only got to fly to the other coast up north, so they're from down in Miami up to Berkeley, which is Northern California, San Francisco, but they got a 10:30 game, which it's late. I mean, they're probably used to, getting ready to go to sleep at, 11:30. Here they're going to be in the first quarter at 11 o'clock. It's going to be tough. I know when the teams go in these other sports and they play the West Coast, baseball or basketball, they always struggle because of the time change. And it's just your body clock is, I play at 4 o'clock, 3:30, or I play at 7:30. Now you ask me to play at 10:30, I'm already asleep. It's a very tough game for Miami. And our last game, Arizona 664 to T-Tech. I don't know. T-Tech's pretty good. They got a really good running back, and Morton's a good quarterback. Their defense kind of scary, 34. Let's look at their real defense here. So Texas Tech gives up 41 to Cincinnati, 22 to Arizona State, 21 to North Texas, and 37 to Washington State. Oh, they gave up 51 to ACU, whoever the hell that is. So let's throw ACU out because that's even though they gave up 51, that's incredible. What Arkansas Central or I don't know, ACU. But after that, so they gave up 37, 21, 22, 44. So they're about an upper 20 defense, not quite a 34. But they did give up 41 to Cincinnati, 37 to Washington State. Okay. And then offensively, it's 40, 30, 66 to North Texas, 16 to Washington State. So the last three have been averaging in the 40s. And then Arizona, they're not as good. Fajita, they lost 31-7 to Kansas State. They killed New Mexico, 61-39, which skews it, but New Mexico is a real team. And then Northern Arizona, they only beat 22-10. Then they got 7 against Kansas State and 23 against a good Utah defense. So they're a 20-point team. 10 to Utah doesn't matter. Rising wasn't playing. 31 and 39. So they're not great defensively. So I think this is a live dog in Texas Tech here. It's got to be. It's our what, 1 o'clock in the morning game? It's on at 11. So of course I got to play it so I can be up till 2:30 going, did they cover? Probably a live dog, I would think. All right. So that is week 6. Your free pick is Ole Miss, South Carolina, over 53 down, 6-47. I think South Carolina is not all that, I take the LSU game, 37-34, and I think you'll have a similar score here. They're not like this great Kentucky defense, and you got Ole Miss kind of pretty pissed off. So we will see. Let's go to the pros. All right, tomorrow night, Atlanta 1.5, 44 to Tampa. Let's go through the lines first. Minnesota 2.5, 40.5 in London. It's on at 9:30. Jet lag, time change, time travel. It's fucking crazy. It's so and it fucks up the teams. They're worried about injuries, and then they do this shit, which is far more detrimental. Rodgers, okay, 10-9. I think it was a pouring rainstorm, and Darnell looks like a real quarterback. He's a real boy, like Pinocchio. 15 defense and a 16 defense. Minnesota, yeah, they're an A team, and the Jets are an under. But anytime you got Aaron Rodgers, you got to be careful. And the Jet defense, you got to be careful with that. Holding Denver to 10 isn't great, but, so they beat New England and they beat Denver, 2 weak teams. Now they got Minnesota. Now we'll see the real Jet defense. Are they a 15 or are they a 30? I don't think Minnesota – I think they score here. Will they win? Will it be a shootout with Rodgers? Minnesota's the better team, but you got to expect, if you don't respect Aaron Rodgers, he'll kill you. All right, now the normal Sunday games. Washington 3, 44.5. To Cleveland. Here we can see injuries. And these are dated last week. I think I got to go to Yahoo for injuries. Fuck. Yeah, Covers is not keeping up with it. We'll go to Yahoo. Does give a daily injury. It's one of the tabs on the right, so I found that. So we'll have to check. Daniels looks great. Thinks he's back at LSU. How's Chicago feeling about that? Oh, we got Caleb. He needs time. And then Daniels is lighting it up, going, well, I guess he doesn't, right? So much for Caleb needing time when Daniels caught on right away. So 344.5. Watson's terrible, and Daniels looks good. He's only got 3 touchdowns throwing and an interception, but I think he runs for 5 or 6 touchdowns. So interesting game. Washington looks like much better. However, there's still no defense, but we'll see. Very interesting game. Baltimore, 2.5, 50.5 to Joe Burrow and the boys. Okay, Baltimore lit up Buffalo. Okay, but we're not playing in Baltimore, and they're not playing Buffalo this week. They're at Joe Burrow land, and good luck there. Joe Burrow's a home dog. 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. 26 defense for Cincy, 22 for Baltimore. They finally got the win over mighty Carolina, but they really had Kansas City. It was a terrible call on the interference. You never throw that. You can't let the refs decide the game. The ball was way over his head. What are you calling pass interference for? Yeah, he touched him, but who gives a fuck? You don't make that call. It's like the NBA. You can get hammered going in. You don't call it if there's 5 seconds left. You got to win the game. You got to put the ball in. Terrible call. So since he can play Kansas City tough, can play Baltimore tough, and they play him twice a year. I think since he's a very live dog in this game. Total wise, yeah, I mean 44.5. I that should get there too. Buffalo now is a 1-point favorite. Damn, I knew that was going to happen. I wanted them as the dog, 47.5. Buffalo's the better team here, and off the loss, they should be pissed. Jacksonville 3-46 to Indy. Who knows in this game? Both teams suck. Is it Flacco now for Indy or Richardson? And then Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, who's terrible. Jacksonville also no defense, 27 defense. Indy with a 21, who I question, but both. Who the fuck knows in this game? Chicago, Carolina. Chicago 441.5. How do you make Caleb the favorite in any game? Good defense for Chicago, 19. Carolina, still a weak defense, but Dalton's a much better quarterback. I still defy that the Bears beat anybody by 10 points. They did beat the Rams. Dalton looks pretty good. I think this Bear defense is really good. That's why that line went down to 41.5. But I still think it's low. Caleb, they threw 40, 50 times with Caleb. What are they, out of their minds? Terrible coaching. They're trying to force Caleb. Well, we'll just keep throwing the ball. I watched the Rams sequence in the first quarter last week. They sacked him 10 times in a row. He'd go back to pass, sack, or they were all over him, and he's just throwing the ball out of bounds. You can't read the blitz, which is what we know. I think he was having Notre Dame flashbacks as they were like sacking him every play. They probably got tired in the second half. So, Carolina, now this is confusing. They're a Z team, but with Dalton, they're not. They're now an over team. So it's a Z and it's an over playing an under. Over is a live dog, but you can't go over in the game because the Bears aren't going to help you much. New England, Miami. New England 135.5. Enough said. The Niners 749.5 to Arizona. What's happened to Arizona? Kyler Murray 13 on the Lions and then 14 on Washington with that defense. So something wrong with Arizona. Hopefully Deebo Samuel can play. Kittle's playing. McCaffrey's out till November, but the backup running back looks good. Purdy's the key. He's fine. The defense should start playing better. So look for the Niners to start rolling. Denver, Oakland. Denver 2.5, 36. Who Who do we have quarterback? Well, no, we got Minshew against Knicks. Knicks finally threw a touchdown pass last week. Oakland 24 defense. So the question here is Crosby back? Is Devontae Adams back? And we can't touch this until we know those two things. Denver, Knicks is coming on. He's not terrible. Better than Caleb. The Rams and Green Bay. Green Bay 348.5. Green Bay, Love played, I think, the full game. He threw 50 passes. I assume he played the full game. So you can see he was rusty, and then second half he started coming on, but they were down 28-0. So he basically threw every down. But with him back, Green Bay is a totally different team. 22 defense. The Rams' problems is 29 defense. They can't replace Aaron Donald, but they're not even close. The receivers are out, so it's a big problem for the Rams right now. Seattle 643.5 to the Giants. Seattle looked good against the Lions offensively. The Giants aren't that. They're a 21 defense, but they don't score. Daniel Jones is pretty bad. Seattle's defense got lit up, but the Giants don't have the offense to light them up again like that. So we will see what's going on there. Seattle, they don't have the deep. Now, what's puzzling is this is a defensive coach. He was there at Michigan a year and Baltimore under the Harbaugh tutelage, and their defense looked like shit against the Lions. I mean, a quarterback throwback and some other plays, a crossing route, and the guy goes 70 yards for a touchdown. It's like, you're a good defensive coach, really? Not if you're giving up plays like that. So I don't know. I got to question Seattle's getting rid of Coach Pete for this idiot. I'm not buying it. Bad play calling in the goal line. You got a guy like Walker, run him. He showed you he swept around and nobody touched him. You got the ball first and goal at the 4, and you don't give the ball to Walker. You don't know how to coach. So again, run the ball from that. You can't throw at the 5-yard line. There's no room. All you're doing is crossing patterns, and there's 7 guys back there. They're waiting for crossing patterns. That's stupid. You're either going to the front pylon or you're doing some sort of crossing pattern. So, yeah, everybody knows what you're doing. Dallas and Pitt. Pitt's 2.5, 44. How's Micah Parsons for Dallas? So they got some injuries. 43.5 the total. Dak sucks. Fields terrible. I don't know. I don't even know where to go on this game. Where's Russell Wilson? And when are they going to replace Dak Prescott? He's 6-2, but we'll see. CD Lamb, Pitt at home off of this loss, they'll button it down. And then the Monday night game is KC 5.5, 43.5 to New Orleans. Mahomes now has Pacheco out, Rice out, another receiver out. Had a tough game, 17-10 with San Diego, and I think that'll be a very similar game here. Both are 18 defenses. Derek Carr's playing fine. He's got Shaheed and Olave and Kamara. This will be a very good game, I think. Mahomes, 6 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's throwing a lot of picks. They must have changed some play calling or something. But what Bill Walsh would do with Montana is go back over the plays that he threw interceptions, and they'd get rid of the play. Like, fuck this play. You're throwing interceptions on it. We got 100 other plays that you don't throw interceptions on. So I don't know what's going on with Mahomes. Again, this is the problem when you play in 2 Super Bowls in a row. You're playing longer seasons, right? You're playing last year, the 17 games plus the 4 playoff games. Miami, Buffalo, Baltimore, Super Bowl. That's 21 games. And I think what happens is they're just tired, hard to be motivated now. Even the Packers, when they won their 3rd title, they struggled. Bart Starr got injured. They had injuries early in the year, and then they all came back. and then they won in the playoffs, and they're kind of like bored. Like, okay, we won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Okay, yeah, we'll try to win 3 in a row. We beat Baltimore, we beat Kansas City or Cincinnati, so they beat the hard teams. Somebody said that they thought Baltimore was the best team in the AFC. Yeah, because you're watching them. Did you watch them against Kansas City, and did you watch them against Oakland? And you still want to make that statement? Okay, yeah, they beat Buffalo, but okay, that's one game at home. Matchup things. They're not the best team. They're not even the best team in their division. Cincinnati is. Um, so I love how people overreact because there's one game, right? Oh, okay, they played one game, so let's overreact on it. No. The best team in the division is Kansas City, followed by Cincinnati. The JETSs aren't far away. Baltimore's in the mix. Pittsburgh, if they get Russell Wilson's in the mix. You have to have the quarterback and the defense. And Buffalo does not have the quarterback, or Baltimore. Buffalo, I don't know what they were doing, but I'm glad the score went over yesterday. Let's see. Who should we make the free pick? I don't know. I need time. I'll make it tomorrow. Good game, Miami and the Jets, but they fucking put it in London. That hurts. I think I will play the game tomorrow night. Atlanta, Tampa, Baltimore, Cincy. Yeah, let's go that. That'll be our free pick. Let's go Baltimore, Cincy. It's 50.5. We're going to go over. That one I like. Baltimore's an over team. They get 400 yards a game. And Joe Burrow's playing. They're an over. They don't have a defense. Joe Burrow will light up Baltimore. I guarantee it. He always does. He plays them well. They're in a must-win situation. This will not be a low-scoring game. Let's go over 44 is 24-20 in a Baltimore-Cincinnati game. Not a problem. They're giving up 24 points to Andy Dalton last week. They gave up 100 points to Washington. So, yeah, this game goes over. So go over Baltimore. Let's see. So I do have 1, 2 locks, possibly 3 locks. I got to check the injuries. Play the game tomorrow. These changing quarterbacks. All of a sudden, Andy Dalton's playing Carolina. They're not a Z team. They're an over. They still have no defense. He doesn't affect that, but they're scoring, right? And Miami, New England, who do you got at quarterback? Is it going to be Huntley? Is it going to be Skylar Thompson? New England, God knows. Brissett's terrible. Drake May's even worse. So what do you do in that game? Again, no quarterbacks. Cleveland, is it really Watson again? And Daniels looks great. Indy, Jacksonville, who do we got? Flacco against Lawrence. I'll take my money on Flacco there. Buffalo, Allen and Stroud. I think that's what you got. Oakland, Minshew and Nix. I think that's what you got. The keys there is Crosby and Devontae Adams. That's your key. Crosby is such a critical piece. Great defensive player. Arizona, the Niners. I don't know what's happening to Arizona. I got lucky I didn't lock them against the Lions. That's why I wanted to block the over. And the Lions finally played their game, which has been gone because the idiot doesn't play him in the preseason. He's lucky that he's 3-1. Could easily have been 1-3. They could easily have lost to the Rams. The Rams were winning that game late. They did lose to Tampa, and they could have lost to Seattle, except for a couple of bad calls from the refs. So we'll see there. Green Bay, Love is back against Stafford. Very good matchup. The Giants, Jones against Smith. It's like a Western. Jones is terrible. 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Geno Smith, 4-4. Now, Seattle has the better offense. You expect the defense to get better with this Michigan defensive coach and Baltimore defensive coach, but they still suck right now. But the Giants really can't do anything about it. Dallas Pitt, Dak and Fields, they both suck. And then you got to see is really it's Micah Parsons, like Crosby. If Micah Parsons is out, it's a whole new game. And then New Orleans, KC, I think this is a very good game, very even game. New Orleans, like Minnesota, is right up there as the best team in the NFC. The Niners, Green Bay, when healthy. With Love, it's Green Bay and Minnesota. And then you got New Orleans. Atlanta, they need to go to Penix. They won't. Good luck. Tampa plays sometimes, and sometimes they don't. Chicago, no, they're terrible. Carolina's terrible. Arizona's no good. Frisco, when healthy. The Rams, possibly good, but their defense is sucking. And then you got Pukanuka and Cooper Kupp out, so they're really hindered. Giants suck. Seattle, I don't buy. Dallas needs a quarterback, and then New Orleans. Detroit, I'm not sold on them yet. Again, you can't look at the Seattle game and say they're back. You have to look at the Tampa game, and you got to look at the Arizona game where they don't score, and that's not playoff football. And then Kansas City's kind of wandering, going, well, we'll win 3 Super Bowls in a row. You can't. This is where you just bet on Mahomes. You can't fuck with Mahomes. He wins the games for you. But this should be a good game with New Orleans. All right, so that's football. A lot of games in college I like. The pros, I got possibly 3 locks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I like about 10 games in the pros, and then I'm torn in the Minnesota Jet game because Minnesota hasn't seen a defense like the Jets's and Aaron Rodgers. And all the jet lag. See, this is where it really gets fucked. It's like the Miami Cal game at 10:30 at night. You can't play it like Miami's at home. You must be cognizant of the travel and the game starting. And the same thing in the Jet Minnesota games, the 9:30 game in the morning. These teams they're not ready for 9:30. They play 1:00 or 4:00 on Sundays, not 1:30. And they don't want to get the players. They're worried about player injuries. This is the biggest joke I've ever seen. What do you mean you're not worried about players' injuries? If you're not worried about players' injuries, why would you schedule a game in London and Brazil and Germany and wherever else, and then play Thursday night games? So you're not. That's bullshit. You're about money. You're like, I was watching Vince McMahon thing. He's on Netflix. I liked a little at the beginning. I didn't like the ending at all. They turn it into a news thing, instead of McMahon, then it becomes, well, all these allegations against them and lawsuits against them. I'm not watching for that. I don't care about that. And just, basically it's about the business, but he crosses too many lines about the business. And then changed from like Hollywood Hogan and Macho Man to all this Generation X and all this other crap. So he lost me there. Now I can't even watch it. It's not even, he's not there anymore. I think his daughter took over. She don't know what the hell she's doing. And I just don't watch it anymore. It's not, you watch the character. It's like you're watching Batman, right? But you take Batman out, and it's like, well, why am I watching? So you took Hogan out, okay. And you got The Rock and Stone Cold out, okay. Now why am I watching? Who's the guy? I don't care. Not interested. And he's trying to say like Mr. McMahon's a character, like an actor, right? So when you meet if you meet an actress, here's her real name and here's her real personality, not what you see on the screen. And you're disappointed because you see them on the screen, you like that character. So you assume that's that person, right? Me, I'm this like I'm like this all the time. This is not a character, but that's the problem. So you like the character, but then they're not like that in real life, and you're like, well, fuck, I don't, why do I want to watch you? I don't want to watch you then if you're not real, because we're into real. I think that's what I'm getting. Even though they're playing the character, like Sean Connery played the same character every time. I think that's how he was in real life. Or Clint Eastwood or Keanu Reeves. You think that's the way they know, because they're not really acting; they're just being themselves, and that's why you like them. And I think they're all stoic, so that's another reason we like them. But yeah, I mean these guys that these actresses, they're all fake. Why do I want to watch you then? You're not real. Um, so that I think's the problem. So he was trying to say Mr. McMahon was not him, but Hogan and others are saying no, that is like his kids. Yeah, no, he's very similar to Mr. McMahon, but he's trying to pass it off like, well, no, I'm like this. I'm like nothing like Mr. McMahon, and they're all like going, no, he's exactly like Mr. McMahon. So it was just like that's who they are. And then some of the characters, Hulk Hogan, you've seen enough interviews that you kind of go, yeah, that's Hulk Hogan. You might tear the shirt off and, you know, uh, eat the vitamins and everything. But I think if you met Hulk Hogan at a grocery store, I think you could have, I know I could have a good conversation with him. I always talk to people like straight. I look them in the eye, how you doing? And I get their defenses down and you can have a talk, but I'm not trying to do anything. I'm just, hey, who do you, if I saw Hogan at the grocery store, I'd be like, who do you like in the football game? And get them away from, get into that. I do that a lot at the pool where I get into gold and silver and, the dollar's collapsing. Nobody understands the dollar collapsing. Let's see our gold price. Nobody understands it. 26.48. So we went to 43 and we're coming back nicely. But look at that 10 o'clock drop, which I don't get. And we should have been higher. We're not getting that Asian buy, but I think that comes Thursday. That's tomorrow. It's amazing how the week flies. It's Monday Night Football, Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. I was watching the Tiger game. That's why I came on late with economics. So they're on at 2 o'clock, and it's the only time I get to see them because they're on ABC. Otherwise, they're on this, Bally's Sports Network. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm not paying for Bally's Sports Network to watch these bums. It's all minor league. All their players are minor leaguers. They're terrible. I was rooting for Houston. I'll root for them today, and the Tigers started choking. It was 3-0 with Skubal. And then it goes 3-1 with the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth. The guy hits a line drive, and the first baseman, with his eyes closed, catches it. But they're all minor. They're all hitting 210, 220. And against this Houston pitching, they all struck out. Like they get lucky hits against the bullpens of the other teams who have the 5 and 6 ERAs, but against good pitching, that's why they're in the minor leagues. But it's so watered down that they had enough bad pitchers. They're trying to play money ball. They're trying to get a lot of foul balls because they're not good. So they got to hit foul balls and get to the pitcher and all this shit. So they're not a good team, but they've been hot at the rate. So Red's coming up a lot, right? So this is roulette. Red keeps hitting, and so they're playing the streak out. And I would bet they would lose today, pretty bad. I can't believe Houston did not put Verlander on the roster. He hit them for like 8 innings in the year. And Bianco, I can't believe they put him as the reliever. You should have started Bianco because he hit the Tigers for 7 or 8 innings, and Verlander. I would have had Verlander pitch game 1 and Bianco pitch game 2, and that's it. But he doesn't even have Verlander on the roster. You got to be out of your mind. He's super clutch. What are you fucking doing? unless he just is injured and they just know he's got nothing left. And Bianco should never be coming out of the bullpen. You want him no hitting the teams, not this shit. So I question the manager Houston has any brains at all. I was shocked when I saw Verlander was not on the roster. I'm like, okay, you're not. Do you not want to win? It reminds me of Jennifer Finch. They were playing the Japanese in the Olympics, and the coach was from Arizona, was Finch's coach, and it's like the gold medal game. And Japan has all these little lefty slap hitters. A slap hitter is a fast girl who just punches the ball and runs, and it's so short that they're able to beat it out for a hit. And he didn't pitch Jennifer Finch, who was the best pitcher ever. She's like Joe Montana. She's very clutch. She's going to win the game. He goes to the lefty for some reason. It's fast pitch softball. You don't. What do you need a lefty for against lefties? It doesn't matter. And he pitches Cat Osterman, and she chokes and loses. And you play your best. He should have pitched Jennifer Finch. So you see how it went. She'd have shut him out. She'd have won the game, gold medal games. That's her style. That's like not starting Joe Montana in the Super Bowl for Steve Young. Yeah, okay, see how that would have worked. You never fuck around. You should have pitched Verlander and you should have pitched Bianco against this team. They both no-hit this team. They can't hit them. So I thought it was a huge mistake. And the Tigers, it's interesting. They're like the Japanese women. They have all these left-handed batters in their lineup. It's probably the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Sparky Anderson had it in '84. You had lefty, righty, or a couple of switch hitters. That's how you bat your lineup. You don't put 7 lefties one after the other, and none of them can hit anyway. They're trying to make, this guy hits 240. Oh my God. But his OPS, I don't even know what the OPS is. It's not on base percentage. What the fuck is it? Like, it's not meaningful. I don't like that their stats are not home runs, average, and RBIs. They don't show RBIs. They just show this OPS number that makes no sense. And then batting average. And so you see a guy with like a 700 OPS, which you don't know what it means. And then he's hitting 220. I'm like, so the guy sucks. I don't care what his OPS is because he only hits the ball 220. So he's never on base. So when he does hit it, he gets an extra base hit. Big fucking deal. I'm more interested in his 220 batting average. That means he's not very good. And then this drawing the walks. That's all the Tigers do. They go up there, they look for walks. It's hysterical. I'm watching minor league baseball here. Anyway, so we'll see. Everything's on ESPN. I don't know why they're doing that. Fox should be showing the games. This is your playoffs, and then nobody can see them. I don't have ESPN. I hate ESPN. It's not in my normal system, and on Spectrum, they don't have ESPN. So, okay, fuck you guys. Don't need to watch it. Especially baseball, it's too boring. I mean, the Tiger game started at 2, I think, and it was like 5:15 when it ended. It's like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so that's what's going on with that. Football, we were good. And that's about it. Off to swim, and then I'll be back for economics. One last look at gold. And it really doesn't matter. We know it'll be 20 times higher soon. 26.48. And then silver 31.71. So it's interesting how silver's up 31.71 and gold's down 11, 26.48. But just it's holding. It's in the 26s, so we're happy. And that's all you can do. It's a very very good price, and you go from there. So anyway, on its way to 3,500 to 5,000, it just keeps going. Eventually you must understand the dollar will not have a value. I don't think it has one now. And it's as it loses value, you've got problems. So that's where we're at. Anyway, have a good day. Go buy some food. I don't know if you need canned items or freezer items. You got to be careful just in case. Are we going to have electricity? We should, but hopefully. Because when I lost power, I realized all the meat in my freezer is useless because I can't cook it if it's no electricity, and then even if I can cook it on a grill, I can't store it in a fridge if there's no electricity. So that is kind of scary. So these idiots want to go to solar and wind. We won't have electricity and electric cars. So how are you gonna? If everybody went and got an electric car, you don't have enough electricity for your house, the electricity in the house, the heat in the air, and then and the cars. I mean, you're trying to do something there isn't enough of, and there's no reason to get rid of fossil fuels anyway. So it's really stupid. But anyway, I think that's it. So your free pick is, where is it? Baltimore, Cincy over 44. And in the college world, it is the South Carolina, Mississippi over 47. Um, all I can do is bet them before the game. I'm not Bernie Madoff. I can't go after the game. And my last point is I don't look at my percentage, look at my totals. If I hit a 21 unit game and I lose 2 5-unit games, we're winners, even though we went 1-3. So don't look at that. Look at the totals, look at the money, and it's all based on teasers are not, you don't bet the same on each team. You'll never win if you bet 4 games, 2 teasers. You're going to lose every time because you probably go 3-1. You're not going to go, you'll have a few weeks you go 4-0, but generally you're going to go 3-1, lose juice. But if I make one teaser higher than the other, then I just got to hit that one teaser. And that's how you win. All right, everybody, have a good day. I'll see you later with economics, and have a good day. www.teaserking.com. All right, take care. If you want college, I go through all my picks and locks and everything else. Friday night, 7 to 8, $25. Pros would be 8 to 9. Friday night, I go through all the picks and give you all the 10 games that I like. Otherwise, if you want a class, I know some people wanted the class where I kind of teach you how to do. I help you a little as we're going through this, but there's several layers that you don't understand. So anyway, have a good day, and I will talk to you later. All right. Thank you very much.